Okay, so dear ladies and gentlemen, good morning and good afternoon, depending on where you are. I hope it's not evening. We are really happy to see you on our online consultations hosted by Green Growth Knowledge Partnership, GGKP, and dedicated to the outreach, stakeholders engagement, and public awareness raising in connection with national implementation plans. These consultations are arranged as a part of outreach assistance to the countries, which should be provided by GGKP under the GEF 10785 project. And furthermore, GGKP is currently developing 6 regional outreach strategies, which countries would be able to practically apply, and if they find it necessary, integrate into their action plans partially, when developing and implementing their NIPs and planning their outreach activities and awareness raising activities on POPs, and also to improve their collaboration with the private sector when collecting the data and developing their POPs inventories. During this consultation, we would be able to share the status of our current work on the strategy development and the schedule. And we would also run a couple of surveys and polls to collect inputs from the representatives of the countries and our participants. And we would have a chance to have a discussion about current challenges and in outreach and stakeholders engagement, existing practices. And if you have successful practices or maybe some practices you would like to share, please feel free to share this during our discussion. Because of the time zones, this event, these consultations are conducted with the participation of Cambodia, Kazakhstan, Laos, PDR, Maldives, Armenia, Georgia, Seychelles, Ethiopia, Kenya, Madagascar, and Uganda. And similar consultations are conducted for the other countries in different time zones. We will be recording this consultation for our internal purposes, but later we will circulate the meeting minutes and the summaries of this discussion to all the participants. So most of the countries, I believe, most of the participants in this session speak English, but we also provide simultaneous interpretation to Russian. And upon our consultations with the regional centers, the following countries and representatives were nominated to share their experience and practices in outreach and stakeholders engagement. This is Maldives, Cambodia, Kazakhstan, and Ethiopia. Thank you very much, colleagues, for your initiative. We really appreciate it. And this is a great honor for us to meet online in this meeting, not in the webinar. Therefore, we would greatly appreciate to hear from you and also engage in the discussions. So my colleague, Stephanie Widerini, who is communications coordinator, she is working on outreach strategies for the countries. She would lead the main discussion today. But before we start, I would like to give the floor to Ms. Carla Valle-Klan, Program Officer from BRS Secretariat, to open this session with a couple of remarks on behalf of Stockholm Convention. The floor is yours, Carla.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, not good evening, I suppose. No Pacific here. So, hello, Katka. I don't know how, hello. I don't know how many of you I have met already before. I worked for the Secretariat of the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm Conventions for a couple of years already. And in the case of the Stockholm Convention, I had been responsible for national reporting. So we may have been in touch in that regard before. Thank you very much, Anastasia and the group of GGKP for inviting us. As I just explained to Anastasia, I'm starting to work with Suman in there of NIPS. And I have worked also with UNEP Chemicals some time ago, trying to make the linkage between Article 15 and Article 7 when we were developing the e-template to see whether we can improve the way that data is collected in either the process under Article 15 or Article 7, if they can be used in both directions. And yeah, so that's also part of a tool to help you do the carry out the information collection and data collection that you have under the NIP, and at the same time reuse or use information for other purposes under the convention. So Anastasia invited me here today to give these opening remarks and to stress the importance of the engagement of stakeholders in this process. From my humble experience with the Stockholm Convention, This is a very important convention, but also very difficult to implement. And we can never do that alone. So it's a team effort, and that starts in your organizations, respective organizations, but also it requires data and input and reviews and changes that will affect positively or negatively other stakeholders in your countries. And therefore, it's very good to have a direct dialogue with them from the beginning of the implementation of the convention, and specifically in the NIPS process as well. So when we say that is because they will be probably impacted positively or negatively. Let's say a small community can be positively impacted by the controls that the convention are putting in place, but negatively if it's a private sector that will need to change behavior or need to change the way they are doing things. So in that sense, it's very important throughout the processes in the different NIPS and NIPS updates that you engage with these different communities. And I would say in a two-way road, meaning to educate those, to inform them of what you need, to explain if you already have measures in place or legislation and how they need to comply with those, but also to learn from their social or economic perspectives how the impacts will affect them and how then to gauge that process as you go along, because we need to play together. Basically, that's it. Even if the convention has a normative approach and a legal approach, if you translate those obligations into your national legislation, still you need the engagement of those to comply with that. And therefore, this continuous dialogues and multi-stakeholders approach from your government with the private sector, NGOs, communities, educational institutions even, it would be, I think, a richer, of course, sometimes also difficult, but also a richer way of implementing your obligations as government representatives. So talking to Suman, I was asking him from his perspective. Suman is my colleague who will probably be available in one of these webinars. He was saying that the main guidance that I should stress today for you is the guidance that is available on socio-economic assessment for the NIPS, development and implementation of the Stockholm Convention. This guidance is from 2017, but I would say the content of the guidance is kind of generic enough that it's still valid. What is there is not outdated. It's not a technical guidance on how to do a specific inventory. It's a more a broad way of looking into the implementation of the convention. So I invite you all to have a look if you have not yet, and to disseminate that guidance among your group of colleagues who will work on that. And that may also give you some idea on how you should organize yourselves in terms of engagement and also other activities you may want to do. On public awareness, I would say that's also an important aspect, and that's part of what I already said. And that can, again, you don't have the capacity most likely to do all of it alone. So it's another way to share the burden in a sense. It's also in the engagement with others to also ask them to help you in that part of the implementation of the convention. So I'll stop here and wish you a good webinar and good luck with the project. And we are here in the Secretariat to help you if you need. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carla, and thank you once again for reminding us about the importance of the engagement from the perspective of convention and developing the needs. And I think my colleague Stephanie Widerini, who is communications coordinator, she will continue. Over to you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Anastasia, and very pleased to see all of you here. Thank you for all your time to really join this session. We've been trying our best, as what Carla has mentioned. This is one of the most important elements in the process of the NIPS update in each of the country. And we just realized, not Anastasia and I, that it's been quite challenging to find some particular reference or examples, especially from developing countries, on how to really run the stakeholder engagement, how to engage with the industry sector, who is one of the main actors in the process, together with the main country representative, also the government ministry and agencies, alongside the NGO, etc. It is quite difficult to find something on best practice scenario, case sample study. So I hope with this session, we can learn from each other, we can gain input and contribution from each of your countries, not only from the way you run it nicely and perfectly in terms of best practice and illustrations, but also what has and has not worked in your cases. So before we start the discussion, I would like to share some of the insights and presentation, maybe to pick some discussion ideas. So let me just share my screen. And we can go through it together. I hope you can see my screen now.
It's not in presentation mode. We can, but not in presentation mode.
How about now? I think I've transformed to the full slide.
Well, I don't see it updated. It has not been moving. So, Stephanie, I still see it I see the screen, I see the first slide, but see the
rest of the slides.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just repeat that in case. Okay. Does it work this time?
Yes, it does.
Okay, perfect. So today is the first session out of the 3 groups that we organize, also depending on the time zone, and we would like to have the freshest mind during this discussion and dialogue. So this online consultation is aimed at feeding and contribute to the idea of the draft strategy on the outreach and stakeholder engagement as part of our component for deliverables coordinated by Green Growth Knowledge Partnership. And for today, agenda items, we'll start with overview that I'm going to present on the outreach and stakeholder engagement, all the context, the objectives, and the expectation on the deliverable and or outputs, as well as the timeline. Then we jump onto discussion to hear your views and your coordination from your countries, and so that we can envision the consultation process and how to really see that in terms of text and the strategy document that we will issue the next few months. And then we go to the closing. So what is the objectives really of this session today? First, we would like to receive inputs from your perspective and specific inputs and gather information relevant to your national context in terms of mapping stakeholder engagement and to get, especially in getting data in terms of data collection in inventory together with industry, as well as other relevant stakeholders in the process of updating the national implementation plans. And second, we have the objective of baseline assessment and improvement to review and assess how the current state of outreach. What is it like in your country in terms of information dissemination for POPs, how that can be enhanced to help your country and wider region to comply with your obligation under the Stockholm Convention, with a particular focus on innovative and enhanced means of implementation, as well as building and enhancing human capacities. And lastly, as I mentioned earlier, on knowledge sharing, we would like to facilitate the sharing, especially peer-to-peer learning on how we can learn from each other, to really hear from each other that the country is not alone, and to hear what challenges that you are encountering, as well as good practices, what can be shared with other countries to benchmark for, and in terms of outreach and information dissemination. And what is the timeline like when we are talking about making the strategy documents that we are currently coordinating? First, the outline of the strategy document has been prepared in July, and we would like to do the consultation and to get more inputs from you this month. Once it's all concluded, we will circulate the meeting notes the same month, and then we would like to hear a little bit more on your best practice if you would like to share on top of what you've shared today. We know that today we will have hopefully 4 countries sharing their experience, their lessons, and their practices. And we would like to collect more if there are more countries who is keen to share and contribute to this in September. The strategy document is expected to be drafted by December, and then we will share for feedback, especially on the country profiles, because the strategy documents, there will be 6 different regional strategy that more or less using similar approach, but we will include the country profile so that we can have a specific country's profiles, and so we can have a feedback from you to make sure that it's accurate in December. And we would like to collect for your revision from you in January 2025 and circulate the final strategy document following the revision and feedback from your side in February 2025. So why is it so important? Why this thing matters? There are 2 contexts that I would like to mention here. First, on the international context, there is a necessity for tools to support parties in conducting outreach and consultation with stakeholders. And we are not the only one in terms of government side and actors to run it, as Carla has mentioned earlier this morning. And then we would like to engage with the private sectors as users of POPs to ensure their participation in management of POPs. We would like to get the provision of specific guidance and assistance for dissemination, outreach, and private sector engagement, and compilation of examples of knowledge management and information sharing strategies. In terms of national context, there is a mandatory or obligation of parties following the COP and its context of the Stockholm Convention. And one country's success in developing, reviewing, and updating NIPs requires an effective means to engage with a wider group of stakeholders. And maybe it's also good to mention here that every country in the national context has different budget to manage POPs, and this is one of the key discussions, I think, often being mentioned. It will be highly encouraged to allocate budget to consider running the activities under stakeholder engagement and outreach, both in terms of relevant stakeholders as well as wider public audience. So we would like to encourage you to include this element to your action plan. So now we jump to the context. What is it, stakeholder engagement? In terms of our context here, strategy documents for outreach for global NIPS updates, engagement refers to the approach to gather input or contribution from stakeholders towards the NIPS inventory, development of action plan, implementation and dissemination, as well as monitoring and evaluation of NIPS update. But it doesn't stop there. We have other contexts we also have to keep in mind, because stakeholder engagement is not a standalone concept, because we also include the outreach that encompasses a range of activities conducted by individuals, organizations, or the national government to raise awareness about the POPs issue and encourage others to engage promoting it. This process includes educating relevant stakeholders about the problem to spark their interest in spreading awareness and participating in efforts to find a solution, in this case, in the efforts of building the action plan for NIPS. And the last but not least, the context of public awareness, which is also one of the critical elements that refers to process of educating the general public, raising their understanding of potential risk and informing them about how to minimize their exposure to POPs, especially on how the health issue really affects the wider society. And one of the key party obligation under Article 10 of Stockholm Convention is to educate the public on the dangers of POPs to their health and the environment. It is critical to create the strategy aimed at increasing public awareness, coupled with the proposed action plan and performance indicator, by working together with the executing agencies and the responsible ministries. This is the strategy outline that we came up with. The first is introductory section on what it is NIPS update and what it is the role of the countries as per the obligation following the Stockholm Convention. And then followed by the idea of why it matters And the methodology that we're using, the majority is, of course, strategizing using the desk research and the literature review based on the NIPS that each country has submitted, and also the contribution to this consultation process. Country profiles and regional summary will also be added to each of the draft strategy. And then we will have to lay out the objectives of the strategy, what is the engagement in the context of NIPS, and who are stakeholders expected to be involved in the process. One of the most important elements is how we will achieve our core objectives. After we understand the context, after we understand the baseline, we would like to lay out how we do the dissemination and outreach, what is the stakeholder engagement ideally is going to be like, how to run the public awareness, including the public campaign, and how often we do that and which channel, etc. And what key messages we will include in this effort. And lastly, one of the most important elements as well is the best practices to illustrate how to do it in reality, in practice, from the context of national government. So this probably have been quite familiar to some of you, because some of the points here were actually proposed and shared by some of our colleagues from different countries. And we had the opportunity to collect some preliminary feedback, contribution, when we asked what are the challenges. General lack of awareness of POPs and the dangers among decision maker and other stakeholders. Lack of common information platforms, lack of legislative framework dictating the standards for information sharing, and then lack of engagement, poor cooperation and coordination, insufficient human and financial resources. And that's why I mentioned earlier that it's really important to include the funding mechanism and the financial resources, the budget into the action plan to really run this stakeholder and outreach. And lack of capacity and resources to monitor compliance at border entry points and to identify and test chemicals, mixture, products, and waste. This is particularly relevant to trade. Some other inputs also thanking to our colleagues from Maldives and also Cambodia, who have shared their perspective on some of the challenges, including the trade, and lack or limited access to training for custom officers, in some cases not enough human resources, and then lack or limited coordination among the different key government actors, and then also the difficulty in retaining due to the frequent changes and high turnover, because of course in the country level there are some changes every few years. And then difficulty of retraining. Sometimes there is no handover process, and perhaps there has been a delay in continuing the previous efforts. Low level of trust from the industry. This is one of the common issues facing our countries. And that's why the information provided during the inventory, especially and data collection, is below accuracy level. And then limited or no disclosure about industrial operations. So this is not just during the inventory, but also throughout the process, and which impedes a proactive action on potential pollution. And then limited or no financial resource allocated by industry themselves for environmental protection. Other five challenges are language barriers. Of course, in some countries, we have more than one main national language, and absence of local approach with the community using localized context and language, insufficient availability and access to information. So there has been no open access to information on POPs to the public. So lack of education on this also contributes to issues. Poor communication and internet access due to the mobile phone penetration, which is not nicely widespread to facilitate information sharing and exchange. And lastly, lack of cooperation and networking with the regional as well as global POP research community. So we always have to remember that BRS Secretariat is always there to support whenever necessary. And then, so the outreach and engagement efforts also require an ongoing cumulative process that enables relationship and trust to build and strengthen over time. The key enablers that may help increase stakeholder engagement include these 10 that we proposed, and we mentioned this in the guidance document, that we have the chance to circulate earlier, a few months ago. Thank you for all your feedback and positively have mentioned that that may help in the process of stakeholder engagement, particularly with the industry sector during the inventory. First, we can garner stakeholders' buy-in. So the enablers that help our process is also to increase understanding of environmental challenges and human health and share responsibility across multi-stakeholders. And then next is to raise national awareness of the Stockholm Convention and new POPs. That's why education is critical here. Build country ownership among national governments and other stakeholders, because without the feeling of ownership, people will not have the feel of the needs and necessity that they should take part in it. We need to support collaborative efforts, particularly with the private sector, while assuring confidentiality and ensure provision on the reporting mechanism standard, without which people will continue asking what will be the best way of reporting mechanism. Support a collaborative reporting platform, so it should be open for everyone, especially for the transparency reason. Create and increase awareness through regular information dissemination, integrate global exchange with the GFC, and integrate outreach strategy and action plan into the overall NIPS update strategy. So who are the relevant stakeholders? We've listed this in our guidance that we also will emphasize on the strategy document, and also making sure that maybe there are others that you would like to propose outside this list of stakeholders. First, of course, national government through with responsibilities tied to other relevant international and regional agreements. Other relevant ministries, for example, ministry responsible for the environment, finance, agriculture, industry, trade, transport, public health, etc. And in some cases, when we're talking about stakeholder engagement and outreach, we also communicate with the Public Information Ministry and Communication. Government official responsible for the multilateral environment agreements, producer or importers of the environmental authorities for chemicals registration authorities, chemical trades and association, particularly for those who have these areas of trade. And then public interest from non-governmental organization regarding chemicals and waste issues, relevant environment and natural conservation organization, academic, social organization, women's group and industrial, commercial agriculture and labor organization. International Environment Organization to provide guidance and assistance, science community, relevant research and education institution, consumer, as well as the general public. There is also general guidance on POPs inventory. This is just a note for you to consult. Of the detailed inventory guidance documents contain lists of suggested stakeholders which are dependent on the chemical in question. So, what does the outreach do? It allows for communication of risk from hazardous chemicals through labeling, printed information education, provide public access to information about hazardous chemical, and facilitate the exchange of information across different stakeholders, including the government, industry, and others. In terms of public awareness, this is something that perhaps often oversight from different countries. But this is very critical because without the public awareness, there will be no social behavior to develop, review, or update the implement and effective successful NIP. And also the public awareness will also contribute to the push from consumer demands. One is to generate awareness about POPs and their impact on human health among the exposed audience, and then to influence behavior towards minimizing the propagation and exposure of POPs among the exposed audience, to communicate alternatives and potential solutions, to engage audience in movement towards minimizing the use of POPs and POPs containing articles that may influence business sector production and use of POPs. So what do we do when we interact with stakeholders? We contact relevant stakeholders to collect the POPs data, to share the data, to validate the data, and to obtain feedback. We need to communicate continuously on a regular consultation and receiving feedback and inputs from their side. And then we also do awareness raising intervention and educational intervention. So these are only a few of the activities that we can propose for the efforts to engage with all the necessary stakeholders. As we know, during the inventory process, there is a tiered process consisting of 3 tiers. And these are the steps that we can look at for tier 1 when we do the assessment, aim at to gain an overview. We can inform the stakeholders about the scope of inventory and background of the Stockholm Convention, so they understand why is it needed and why the role is required in this process, and to communicate the arrangement of treatments of confidential business information. On the next tier, on tier 2, when we focus on generating data from the main sectors, we start getting a little bit more detail in terms of contact and communication for data, including interviews, surveys, and site visits. And on the last tier, when it goes to the in-depth and if it's really necessary to go deeper to look for the information following tier 1 and tier 2, is to contact for more data collection through interviews and survey, as well as site visit, and to obtain feedback and validate the data. On the contacting stakeholders after the inventory process, because we know we don't stop there, we start engaging them before we start, and then during the inventory, but also following the inventory, on building and developing the action plan, implementation of NIPS, up to monitoring and implementation. This is particularly important to gain trust and to make sure there is a transparency and ongoing collaboration and coordination across different stakeholders. So these are all the guidance references that you may consult from, and all UNEP published documents. And we will be able to share this presentation with you and the minutes of the meeting once it's ready. So now I would like to return to my colleague, Anastasia, to start the discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie, for an intro. And since we actually developed these strategies, we had a couple of interactions with the regional executing agencies. We collected some of the feedback, but the feedback was from a few countries, and it's still not enough to build 6 regional outreach strategies that would be really helpful in the national context. So these consultations will feature some of the polls and some of the surveys. So we'll really appreciate if you could answer some questions. So let me launch the first poll, and I hope you can see this. Is it on the screen, Stephanie?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the question is, how important do you think stakeholder engagement and awareness campaigns as a part of the outreach and information dissemination efforts during NIPS review and update? And the answers could be extremely important or very important, moderately important, slightly important, and not important at all. And please feel free to answer. We still don't have, okay, it's ongoing. We really encourage you to provide your answers. And the second question is, what are the key challenges your organization faces during outreach and information dissemination efforts in connection with national implementation plans? So we have a list of potential answers: lack of knowledge or expertise, lack of financial resources, lack of common information platform, insufficient human resources and unavailable dedicated personnel, unavailable SOP, standard operating procedures, lack of national coordination and engagement with the stakeholders, limited access to training opportunities, low level of cooperation, particularly from the private sector, insufficient public information on POPs, lack of regional and global cooperation. Okay, we have still just four people, 4 participants who responded. 5 out of 16, 6. Let's wait a little bit more. So I see, based on the answers, that it's actually very important for most of the people and extremely important to run this awareness raising campaigns and outreach and information dissemination efforts during NIPS and after NIPS. And among the challenges, we have quite of many answers because this is multiple choice question. Okay, shall we wait a bit more? We have almost 50 people who responded. Maybe we'll wait a bit more to collect more inputs. Okay, what do you think, Stephanie?
It's very I actually wanted to check on the first question, and it was very interesting that I expected to have more extremely important, but there is a very important. So there probably there are other priorities on top of the stakeholders engagement. And then in terms of challenges, I guess I don't know if there's anyone who would want to elaborate a little bit more on their experience in some of the elements mentioned there, especially on the highest. Maybe the highest two, and if there is any other point that is being mentioned. So I guess it's in line with what was mentioned earlier in my presentation.
Yeah, and I see the response from Katka from Resa Talks that another challenge is simultaneous work and lack of time. And that's true because ministries and public agencies, they work not only on POPs and they work not only on the Stockholm Convention, but they also have their work streams, and they're quite loaded to participate first in all of the training sessions, in all of the webinars, and also organize all of this activities on the outreach and stakeholder engagement. That's pretty much true. And from my end, I would like, because as a person who is coming from a developing countries, let me share the results of the poll so we can see. I hope you can see the results. And
yes, we can.
Okay, that's on the screen. And from my perspective, as a person who is coming from a developing country, it's very hard to understand about the POPs because first of all, the POPs chemical pollution is very intangible, is invisible from the perspective of a usual citizen, and general public is quite hard to understand why it is necessary, especially when the economic development is more a priority and economic well-being is more a priority. So this could be also one of the challenges from my perspective and my experience, is that people may understand, but some campaigns may be really inefficient, no matter how good they are and how well they are structured. Okay, let me stop sharing. And over to you, Stephanie.
Yeah. Thank you. Let me just move to the next. Okay. Okay, just a second. Give me 1 second to exit. I'm not sure if I still share my screen.
Yeah, you just stop sharing.
Oh, maybe just stop it. Okay. 1 second.
Maybe we have any countries that would like to add anything in between on the challenges they're facing in terms of stakeholders engagement, and it could be stakeholders engagement during the inventory process when they are reaching out to the private sector and industry. Maybe when they're reaching out to informal sector, because it's very hard to ensure the collaboration and also the transparency and information sharing, because business sector and private sector may not be really interested to collaborate. And maybe someone wants to share on this. We did have some colleagues that wanted to present. If that is something related to your topic you wanted to share with us, please feel free to raise your hand and turn on your screen, microphone. Okay, maybe not yet. Shall we run the other poll, Stephanie?
Yes, please. So the next question, maybe we can show the polls instead so it doesn't interfere with the presentation. So the next question that we would like to share to get some inputs is what can be seen by the national government as the drivers of change to get the appropriate level of the stakeholders or their inputs. So is there any polls that you can share, Anastasia?
Yes, I'm trying to share the poll, but it doesn't work on my end. Would you be able to access the polls? It's part
No,
2.
afraid I cannot see it here actually. 1 second. I'm afraid I don't have it here. Yeah.
Let me share this question in the chat, and then maybe we can pick up someone from the audience who would like to intervene. Okay, so this is the question on what can be seen by the national government as the drivers of change, right?
Yes.
Okay, let me share in the chat while we are trying to fix the poll. And maybe colleagues from regional centers would like to add something on this question on behalf of their countries, or maybe some countries would like to add a bit on this question. So what can be seen by the national government as the drivers of change to get appropriate level? So we spoke about the challenges that we and the countries may be facing during their NIP update and development process in terms of outreach and also public awareness raising and also stakeholders engagement. And now we would like to know, what do you think could be the good drivers or some positive changes from the government? Okay, we can hear that this is enabling policies from Ethiopia. So some policies or legislative frameworks that would allow
here it is. The poll comes up now. It's
okay. It was frozen.
Yeah, it's easier. Yeah.
Okay, we have the poll. And okay.
And you can, I guess you can select more than one option.
Yes, this is multiple choice. So please feel free to answer the question, and the answers and the inputs will be considered when we develop the strategies for each region, so that we can pick up the key points and focus our attention on this.
So far we have 3 participating, and it'll be good to understand, other than, because we see that enabling policies is the most important, because without which we can't really endorse or make sure that parties comply with the necessary requirements. And we have 6 contributions on these answers. And we can see the top one, followed by enabling policies, followed by financing mechanism,
Okay.
Which is 63%. That is really critical, because of course with no budget allocation and there's no proper financing mechanism, we won't be able to run our plan. Even it doesn't matter how ideal the context is, how ideal we would like to create the condition and environment, it won't be able to be operating. And then there is also information clarity that is mentioned by our colleagues here. And it's good to know that information clarity and transparency that you acknowledge is really important as the top 3, following enabling policies, financing mechanism, and information clarity and transparency. Without these elements, of course, no other stakeholders will see the plan from the government. What is it that you're trying to get from us? What is it that you want? Why you want this information? Why you want this data? Why you want us to collect all this very detailed information that we run? Why do we have to follow or your instruction for this? And then there is also a strong coordination and regular open access communication. Of course, others are also very important: free access information to all parties, consumer public demands, behavioral change. I don't know if there is anything else, but there is other being mentioned here. I'm not sure. There is also answers from Katerina Zakova from Katka. From Czech, it is A and D, but then there is also follow-up on A, and then in H, simultaneously part of education and reflection to political priorities. And that's true because of changes of the governance that can jeopardize perhaps some of the policies that probably was made earlier, but there is no continuation to the following term or presidential election. There has been instability that can also create a disruption in the process that may not take very shortly. So we need a long stability and make sure there is an assurance on that. Thank you for that input. I think it will be good to hear from our colleagues here, especially how it is, following this these inputs. I don't know if there are any countries our colleagues would like to. I will probably just close this poll for now. Thank you so much. This is the results so far. So reflecting on this, I don't know if there is any country representative, maybe from I don't know, Maldives or Cambodia or Ethiopia.
We also have some colleagues from Georgia, I think, that could also add a bit
would
to
begin
this.
to share their perspective on what is the current state of their stakeholder engagement so far, in the effort of, especially in the inventory and data collection. If there is any difficulties at all, or if it's going on very well, ideal and smooth, and all the information has been clear, accurate, with lots of support, sufficient collaboration and coordination across different ministries and agencies. Is there anyone who would like to share their perspective? If not, we can, okay, from Maldives, Fatima Faruza.
Hi, thank you for this opportunity. I'm sorry, there's heavy rain going on here, so there might be some sound difficulty.
Don't worry, we cannot hear that background. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So as for the inventory process, we have not yet initiated since it's the beginning of the project. And we are currently trying to hire NIP experts from the country and from the international agents even. Then we have established a national coordination mechanism with formal nominations from the target organizations in the country. Then the coordination mechanism has a term of reference that was agreed upon by all the members, and which outlines the communication method. So our national coordination mechanism has agreed to meet twice a year to review overall project activities and work plans. And they also, any important documents are communicated via emails, since most of the members agreed to combine physical and virtual meetings to maximize attendance, as we are geographically dispersed among or all over the country. Stakeholders within the country might find it more feasible to join online meetings. And considering that Maldives is not an industrial nation and does not engage in the manufacturing of goods or the production of plastics or other materials, certain stakeholders have demonstrated limited interest as they are not directly implicated in the scope of this project. Furthermore, the absence of existing legislation pertaining to the control of POPs in the country is also connected to this. Should I continue or? So some of the stakeholders that we would expect to participate in the future NIP inventory is all the chemical and chemical product importers and Maldives Customs Service, Ministry of Defense, Waste Management Corporation, and Ministry of Health. Then the national government, yeah, sorry.
No, I think you were cut out a little bit. Please go ahead, Fatima.
Okay. So in order to get sufficient level of support and inputs from the stakeholders, it's important to assess the level of stakeholder input-driven change to the project activities and outcomes. And we can furthermore conduct surveys to gauge the level of stakeholder satisfaction. And for documentation purposes, we can have written records of stakeholder comments and inputs and formal endorsement of project outputs by the stakeholders. Some of the good practices that we have in the MODIS is engaging with the national focal point of the Stockholm Convention and existing project management unit involved in the chemicals management projects from the ministry, and transparent communication of all aspects of the project, and particularly setting clear objectives, specifically establish clear objectives for stakeholders and explicitly outline expectations or requirements from the stakeholders. So we have shared the National Coordination Mechanism, TOR, and the meeting minutes. At the moment, we may be in need of another meeting with the NCM to get more feedback from them. That's the update we have from the MODIS. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fatima. It's a really, really good insight into how Maldives conducting your inventory and then the process, how you engage with the right relevant stakeholders. Of course, there are still some challenges, and good that it's been acknowledged. Along that, you made sure that there also is some good practices that has been very successful, especially with the project management, while we are in the process, you're in the process of improving the procedure. I don't know if there is any feedback from that, or if Anastasia, you have any question at all, or other colleagues would like to add up on top of what Fatima has shared about how Maldives is conducting and coordinating.
Yeah, I think we had colleagues from Ethiopia who wanted to present as well today. I'm not sure if they're still with us. It's Mr. Kidos.
Yes,
Welcome.
I'm with you.
Hello. It's really great to see you. So we're looking forward to hearing from you about your current practices and maybe challenges and existing status of the outreach and stakeholder engagement, and also public awareness.
I have prepared a few slides. May I share my screen?
Sure, please. Thank you.
Can you see my screen? Or?
Not yet. I think it should be coming.
Okay, it's coming. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon. My name is Kadus Wakila from Ethiopian Environmental Protection Authority, in charge of chemicals and hazardous waste compliance monitoring. And I have been working closely on this project. I will try to share Ethiopia's experience through the stakeholder engagement of the National Implementation Plan development. So we started this project a bit later than the actual starting date, and still we are working on this project. So I will go directly to the key stakeholders involved in the process of the NIP update. So EPA is one of the institution that is coordinating this project, and with this project, there are a lot of key stakeholders involved. The Minister of Health, Minister of Agriculture, Minister of Industry, Minister of Trade and Regional Cooperation, the civic societies, Minister of Finance, and Minister of Women and Social Affairs, the Ministry of Water and Irrigation, the Minister of Urban Infrastructure, and also there are industries that are involved in this process. So when we see the coordination of the NIP update project in our country, as I have told you earlier, the Ethiopian Environmental Protection is the the overall project coordinator of this project, and we have established a national project steering committee, and following the national project steering committee, we have also established the technical teams, which is composed of 6 teams that are responsible for specific activities. So these teams are the pesticide teams, PBDS teams, PFOS teams, UPOPs teams, PCBs teams, and the legal team. So we have involved representatives from key stakeholders in these teams. We have delegates from different key stakeholders. So the major activities we have achieved so far is first, we have established a national steering committee and technical committees by involving different key stakeholders. Following the establishment, we have developed terms of reference for the roles and responsibilities of this steering committees, national steering committees, and the technical teams. So this term of reference defines the roles and responsibilities of each committees, so that it can guide the committees and technical teams. So the project steering committee provides a strategic and policy guidance and review and approve annual work plans and budgets. Also, the technical team address specific tasks or multitasks such as the inventory and the awareness raising on POPs. So far, we haven't started the inventory, but we are just coordinating and facilitating the team. And we are about to start the inventory. We are following by the technical trainings. So we have one training that involved the key stakeholders from the different institutions. Also, these stakeholders were participating in the different virtual meetings, which was prepared and facilitated by the GGKP. Also, we had one national project steering committee. The national steering committee has endorsed our work plan and budgets. Also, there is experience sharing platforms between the technical teams. We have the WhatsApp groups among the technical groups. So each team is sharing its experience through this platform. So thank you for your attention. Over to you, please.
Thank you so much. It's really good to hear that Ethiopia has started early, even before the inventory process. You've got you've prepared the POP specific team and the technical committee and steering committee to engage early with your stakeholders, even come up to the TOR, so that there is a really clear task and responsibility distribution. So there will be no confusion who should be doing what in which capacity, which is great. And then you will also have the capacity building to offer, and you mentioned about collaboration outside the national government, engaging with the BRS, also engaging with the GGKP. Of course, we will provide all the necessary webinar. We are here also if you need to get some information. And the regular engagement using especially the WhatsApp group, and lots of countries use this channel. Of course, depending on the mobile penetration, internet coverage, WhatsApp is one of the good channels to make sure that the engagement continues and the consultation continues, and then the communication is always open, so people are not forgotten, and they always follow very easily at any time, and only in through one click. So I think that is really, really good preparation from Ethiopia, and thank you so much for sharing with all of us. So I guess we can move on to the next section, Anastasia, and I guess there is another poll that should come up.
Okay, is it a poll on, wait a second. Okay, what stakeholders do you expect to participate, right? Let me
That's correct,
launch.
sorry.
And I hope you can see the questions. It's who are the stakeholders you would expect to participate in NIP update and review process? And among of the potential answers, this is national government, including coordinating ministries, industry and private sector, including business associations and SMEs, NGOs, local authorities, academia, and educational institutions, also scientists, the science community, and maybe something else. If it is something else, please feel free to drop your answer to the chat, and that would be really great. Okay, so we have 6 participants who answered. So far, most of the answers, they pertain to national government as the main stakeholder, and industry and private sector as involved stakeholders, and also local authorities, academia. It's very good to see that people responded that this is academia, because there is quite much of the research in this area. It would be really great to involve some professors or research institutes. I'm not sure how many are involved in this steering committee or national coordinating mechanism. Do they really support the inventory process or not? Because they may have some data that would help countries to probably on the tier 1. So something that is on the surface, and you do not really have to contact some businesses for this, because some researchers already have looked into that and they have some insights. Okay, I think 10 out of 17 people participated in the poll. Shall I share the results, or shall we wait a little bit more?
I think
And
we
yeah.
can share the result for now.
And I see a comment from Katka that enforcement agencies for environment and health, and also customs offices, waste management companies, and statistical offices, because yes, these are also providing some of the data for the inventory process, and they definitely have some of the statistics. Okay, we will add this to the key stakeholders as well, and I will share the results. Okay, so one of the answers in the chat, in the stakeholder involvement, I missed the academia, and I wanted to understand if they are accounted for the civil society. I think we do have academic institutions here in the answers. So these academic institutions, they include the academia and research institutions. Okay. So anything else, Stephanie?
I think we're good at the stakeholders, so we can move on to the general public perspective in the media.
Okay, do you mean the poll?
Yeah.
Okay, and I think we have one last poll, which is about the awareness raising. Because aside from the inventory and aside from the stakeholders engagement during the inventory process and during the data collection process, when we have to mostly engage with the private sector and we have to engage with the public agencies, like Katka also mentioned as additional stakeholders, customs offices, health and environment, and agencies, and also waste management agencies. So all the agencies and companies and organizations that are involved in the whole life cycle of pulps. So aside from this, we do have the public awareness. So we would really want to know how your countries and how your governments and how your organizations communicate the information about pulps to the general public, to usual people. So maybe this is newspapers and television, social media channels of the public agencies, because many ministries, they do have their social media accounts these days. They have their Instagram. They try to somehow reach out to the younger population through the social media, and also social media of influencers, websites of the public agencies, radio, in case the internet penetration may be not that good in the country or in some rural areas. And also some countries may have some environmental education as some subject integrated in the curriculum, so that is schools and educational institutions, and maybe some community events for, again, some rural areas which are very hard to reach. So if you can see the poll on the screen, please feel free to answer, because this will really help us shape some recommendations in the strategy, which would be related to the public awareness. So we were trying to collect some data from available in the internet on how much countries use this traditional media to streamline the information to the public. But it would be also good to understand how in your agencies you do this, and which of these are very important. And then there are a couple of questions on the frequency. So for each, like newspapers, for example, how often is the information about POPs communicated through the newspapers? Like very often, not often. So from 1 to 10, that's the scale. And 1 is like never, 0 is never, and 10 is quite often. We fully understand that the definition of often is different for everyone, but at least that would give us some insights. And also how often the information about POPs is communicated through the television. My experience, I've never heard anyone in our country speaking about POPs on the TV, but maybe that could be the case in your country. Also the social media channels, if any ministries, they may have it. And maybe you don't have your social media channels and this kind of efforts in your ministry, but that can be also a joint effort with probably Ministry of Public Health, because they also may have some campaigns on this. So you can include this as well. Okay, how often the information about POPs communicated through the social media channels of the influencers, and how often is this information communicated through the websites of public agencies or ministries, and also through the radio, because internet penetration may be different in every country, and some rural areas may not have. Of course, these days people have the mobile devices and access to the internet, but it really depends. And also maybe some POPs or generally environmental information is communicated, or about something about chemical pollution is communicated in schools or educational institutions. And also we would like to know how often it is the information about chemicals and POPs is communicated through the community events. So I think we have 6 responses out of 17. We really appreciate if you could go through and leave your feedback, because this is the final poll, and we will go to the discussion after this. Okay, in the meantime, do you have anything to add, Stephanie?
No, it's actually very interesting. I think, of course, as you mentioned, because we were trying to create a description in the strategy, or to illustrate what's the media landscape, especially in regards to the public awareness campaign as part of Article 10. We will distinguish what's the accessibility in terms of digital media vis-a-vis the traditional media. Of course, newspaper and television plays quite a lot of roles in many countries. Due to the mobile penetration that is probably not sufficient, but we can see today that the majority of information is circulated through social media, which is excellent, because of course the younger audience, maybe it's really relative, the younger or the youth will refer to people up to maybe 35 years old, and that's very critical demography, where they need to understand a bit more on the impact of chemicals onto their health and the environment. So using the most accessible channel for this community on top of the traditional media, perhaps that can be applied to the older generation, will be equal, so that we have the information equity applied to across the whole country. So I guess before we end this session, I know that we are about 5 minutes later than we expected. I would like to also mention about I don't know if maybe if you I don't know if there is another poll. There is one last question that I would like to ask about the currently existing modalities. We learned from what Ethiopia representatives Kijus has presented. You've used some of the channels in terms of preparation before the inventory, but we have also capacity building, we have WhatsApp, also the public awareness campaign, we have all this public channel. How about for relevant stakeholders, especially for the industry in terms of inventory data and inventory and collection? If we also use a survey or questionnaire, and we organize a stakeholder feedback session, if we organize a working group or the steering committee, the way Ethiopia has created on technical advisory group and steering committee and information dissemination system, I wonder if there's anyone would like to add on that note. And thank you also, Kitus, for mentioning the various other stakeholders to be involved. There are different research institutes, referring to the question earlier, whether academic institutions, academia, if they're under civic society. There are different research institutions and university affiliated to the key stakeholders. And also question 8 and 9, if there is curricula from Katka, I am aware of 3 universities in the country, which is great, that have related curricula. So some countries have implemented such efforts and community events. We saw also in the poll earlier that one input on the community event, which is really, really important, especially to engage in person. Now the world has become digital, but we cannot forget the in-person approach, and community event is one of the most of the time forgotten element, but good to see that there is still initiative on that. And also link it with the science night, environment days, etc., which speaks perhaps better to the community. For TV and radio, only if there is a problem and challenges to actually for the news channel and media to discuss.
And Stephanie, I think we have the presenter from Kazakhstan.
Yes, I
Ms.
was about
Amina
to jump there.
She has joined, and
Perfect.
she also would like to add a bit on this. So I
think we also have Cambodia before we close, and so we have Kazakhstan and Cambodia
and Georgia. Okay, we would probably ask Ms. Amina Beybitova. We have interpreters today, so if you speak in Russian channel, interpreters will be in English channel translating into English.
Sorry, I think more useful for me on Russian.
Oh, sure. Please feel free to connect to Russian channel. So there is an interpretation function in this window of Zoom meetings. So if you select interpretation and select Russian channel, you will be in Russian channel, and interpreters will translate into English.
No, I try to present myself on English, but if I cannot, I will change on Russian. I'm Amina Beybitova. I am from Kazakhstan, Astana. I'm working on POPs issues during 20 years. And I was a project manager of UNDP project on PCB. Then worked several projects, UN projects, UNEP, UNEP, UNITAR, World Bank, and others. What say about? Sorry, sorry. Sure. If said about raising awareness and the participating the stakeholders and involving of different stakeholders in the project on NIP updating, I think we will organize the steering committee for project. Therefore, our ministries and agencies will be involved in the work of steering committee. And I hope we will include in this team some representatives from the NGOs, institutions, scientific institutions, and other society. Yes, I hope that I think we will involve the all stakeholders on the meetings will be organized in Kazakhstan during by project, and we think that our representatives will be actively participated in the NIP updating, because on the legislation requirement, our legislation requirement, will normative acts and other activities must be received to agreement from no confirming. It's like agreement from the NGOs, the special associations. We have the list association. We need receive from this association the agreement, the согласие. Sorry.
Approval.
Approval, yes.
Or consent.
Approval from the associations and NGOs. It is legal requirement in Kazakhstan. And I see, and the previous projects, I know that we have some peoples which from the society which are actively participated in the discuss of project draft of the normative acts and other documents. I hope that in our project will be the same.
And thank you very much, Amina. Is it all, or do you want to share anything else?
I think we learned a lot from Kazakhstan, also because Amina mentioned about the steering committee and together with the government, team of representatives from NGOs. So there is awareness of the importance of NGOs involvement and the scientific institutions. So the plan is to bring all this together and involve all of them in the project meeting preparation, especially to really activate them in participating in the discussion as per their legislative requirements, and using the consent form for special association which is required, also following the right legislation. And of course, we also go back to the importance of to make sure there is a disclaimer on how we use specific information or data to make sure we have the trust on how to handle sensitive data. And we have this also confirmed that we need to make sure that is there in place. And representatives also from the society participating in the project preparation on documents. So hopefully this can make up a really good preparation in gathering the relationship with the stakeholder engagement. So I guess this is really positive. Thank you, Amina.
Yes, Stephanie. And I think we do have one more presenter from Georgia, Mr. Georgi Gulbani and Ms. Anna Chokheli. If you are still with us here, please feel free to join and add if you have anything to share on current practices and existing status of stakeholder engagement and public awareness in Georgia. We'll be really happy to hear from you too. Okay, let's wait a bit. I can see both representatives from Georgia here in this meeting. I'm not sure, Katka, maybe you could add something while we are waiting for our colleagues. If Katka is still here.
Apologies, yes, I'm here, but I wasn't listening because I was on a call, so I'm very sorry. I had a phone call, so I'm sorry for couldn't
Yeah,
hear.
we are trying to connect with the representatives from Georgia, so I can see them on the list of participants, but unfortunately we cannot connect. I'm not sure if they want to present. If so, we would be really happy to hear. I think it's Georgi Gulbani and Anna
Chokheli. Yeah. The only thing is that we've received this information from the Ministry of Environment of Georgia that colleagues will be participating, and if they want to share, any of their, we didn't receive any further instructions. I also see Irakli Legashvili from the regional center from Caucasus if he wants to feel, because he is also one of the experts working on the NIP update. So if he wants to share something.
Okay. That will be great. If anyone from Georgia wants to add anything, please feel free to unmute yourself and join the discussion.
And colleagues from Cambodia, I'm not sure whether they had, provided their presentation already. So maybe in the meantime,
yes, we have received one question in the Q&A. I think Cambodia is probably not joining. So they have just messaged us that they do not have anything to add on this.
Yeah.
Oh, are you here?
Hello. Yes, I'm from Cambodia.
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Happy to see you.
It's nice to see you. I don't have a presentation, but I have a small share with our experience to develop the inventory and NIP update. In Cambodia, have a national coordinating steering committee that have related to the stakeholder from the industrial, health, agriculture, and NGO, and also the private sector. That private sector have we use the PRTO system to collect data from the industrial. Yes, and during the develop, we have to meeting through the NCC, have a regular meeting by online, and also the social connection by Telegram, also email. Yes, from the industries. And the action plan that we have to develop from during the NIP update to set the strategy. Yes, thank you. That's all.
Thank you so much to colleagues from Cambodia. It's very great to hear from you. Stephanie, do you have anything to add on this?
Yeah, I'm actually pleased to hear also from Cambodia having the National Steering Committee on the preparation, and then also engaging with the agriculture sector and industry, on top of industry, of course, agriculture, you know, related to pesticide, and the NGO as well. And you know that we've learned so far that it's going to be challenging without the involvement of the NGOs or the civic society. That actually emphasize what Carla has emphasized really at the very beginning. It cannot be done just by one actor alone, which is the national government. And one also mentioned about data collection mechanism. So this is also an enabling element with the mechanism that is standardized. We have the tool which one to go to, which one to actually fill in with the data, the necessary information that will help all the participating actor and stakeholder to use the right steps. And online regular meeting, which is great, and using Telegram and email. So this again emphasizes the importance of digital media and channel, and we are going to include that also in the country profile and with the regional summary. And one of the good strategy on how to reach out to these people. And of course, all these will contribute to setting up the strategy for the action plan for NIPS update from Cambodia. Thank you so much, Cambodia. Thank you so much, Wong, for contributing to this insights. Back to you, Anastasia.
This is very great. I think we are quite behind the time. We are quite late, and probably it's time to wrap up and thank all the participants for your participation, for your time, for sharing your insights from your countries, from your experiences, from your current practices, and also participating in the polls, because these results will be very helpful for us to shape the strategies. And we will finalize this consultation in a summary, and we'll provide the meeting minutes after. So that you can probably, if you have any ideas after this consultations, you can get back to us and respond to this meeting minutes and add something more. So my colleague Stephanie is working on development of 6 regional outreach strategies, and these outreach strategies would be they would touch upon the stakeholders' engagement for inventory development, but also on the public awareness. So we will come up with a couple of tools and a couple of recommendations of what kind of steps or maybe events or actions could be taken in order to ensure the stakeholders' engagement and also raise the public awareness. So what we did from our end, we analyzed the NIPs, which were the latest NIPs which were submitted by your countries. So we have some information about the POPs in the country, but we will be sharing with you also some profiles of the countries that we built based on the NIPs and based on the available information. And maybe we will need your support to validate and check these country profiles, which will go to the strategy. So this will come probably August and September, I think, right, Stephanie?
Yeah, so we're circulating of course, the minutes first, and then we will circulate the country profile a little bit later for assessment. So we will gather the right data as per your input today, and as per the desk research and the NIPs that you've submitted. And of course, as Anastasia mentioned, if there is any other points that can be added onto the strategy, and if you would like to share any other best practices to feed into the strategy document, that will be highly appreciated, so that we can use that case to be then benchmarked by other countries. So it will be included into the publication from your country's perspective, the best practice. So, and I think we can also have the Ethiopia's representatives presentation. We can also include that into the narrative.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. And thank you, Stephanie. And thank you very much to all presenters, both from Maldives, Cambodia, Ethiopia, from Kazakhstan. I hope I haven't missed anyone. Thank you very much to the regional centers for your support and in coordination in organizing these sessions. We really, really appreciate your kind help here, and we'll be soon circulating the meeting minutes and hope to hear from you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
You
Thank
too.
Thank
Have a
you.
good
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye from Cambodia.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Cambodia.
Thank you.
Thank you.